What else?
Chamberlain
So
ring.
what do you have there?
It's two rings. I don't know where they came from. The one's a Wilt Chamberlain, like 1960 76ers World Championship one. And then the one is the Eagles knockoff Super Bowl ring that I feel like every dad in Montgomery Bucks County who's an Eagles fan had gotten at some point 2018 and since.
What jerseys do you have?
So we would be out of time recording if we went through every
What's your
single jersey.
favorite? What's your favorite jerseys you have, John?
It changes every time I get New Jersey. It changes. I mean, there's a couple. I mean, one of my favorites is just a Marcus Mariota Oregon one is up there. Deion Sanders Falcons. It's another good one of mine. The Shaq Lakers one I got is very cool. I have just so many different. I have a Spurs Tottenham Hotspurs jersey that I think I've shown you before.
What?
Yeah, I have a Harry Kane jersey.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's hanging in my closet.
Wow.
Yeah, do I need to pull it out to prove? I showed you to you before, and you said, "Wow." Like,
Did I? I don't remember.
Yeah.
God bless. I'll say this. I mean, that just your brownie points just went up tremendously, Jack.
What can I say?
I mean,
I got that before I even knew you were a Hotspur fan. I just got that because I thought it was cool.
You were before Portnoy Hotspurs fan.
Maybe. I don't know. I didn't know when
he came on the scene. He came on the scene in like about maybe 8 months ago.
Oh yeah,
I met Harry Kane and became a big fan. Look at you buying the jersey. Definitely bought it on sale though, so you're not even a fan. You just saw it and were like, "Oh, I'm gonna get it."
I like
design. I like $16 at Goodwill.
My thing is I don't buy the only jerseys I ever get anymore are like old school ones that I see at like thrift stores or like just old unique jerseys. Like I don't like having the jerseys that everybody has. I think they're cool. Like a Jalen Hurts jersey is a nice jersey, but like I'd rather go after like a jersey not everybody has. Like I don't even know who would be like a Hassan Reddick. Like Hassan Reddick's even a popular one, but like they don't really make many of them. Like if anything, Fletcher Cox is probably Brandon Graham the ones they make the most of. Like on a national scale, but just like the random players, like my niche with like NBA jerseys is like a random role player. Like I have a Marco Bellinelli 76ers jersey, Norvell Pell Sixers jersey. Probably the only person in America that has both those jerseys.
You have an AI jersey. Shocker.
I do not have an AI jersey.
Too expensive. You're like, I don't want to spend money on
that.
I
mean, I guess technically I have one, but it's like a youth medium from like 2004 when I was like a three-year-old hopping around in Horsham.
So I put my ring on, my championship ring in Temple, and it's stuck. It's stuck on my pointer finger.
There's a joke to be had there about getting bigger with age. I don't even know.
No, I put it on the other finger because I brought the ring a little bit bigger. What a hell of a start to the show here for those tuning in at home. We're going to this is all.
We're going to have to end this with a medical procedure.
Yeah, no, everything will be excellent here. I'm going to get this off my finger. There it is. Finally came off. Jesus, Christmas.
Lovely.
Yeah, everything's excellent, Jack. Everything's excellent. Welcome back to the Colin Thompson Show, presented by Not For Long Media. I started the recording of the show because Jack didn't know I was recording, and then I'm sneaking the recording on him, and it helps us focus and get aligned and make sure, if we have any good content before the intro to the show, it gets clipped and it gets a part of Not For Long Media. Big win for the Tottenham Hotspurs this weekend. Big win over West Ham. Love the way the team is kind of trending a little bit. Beat Man City. Beat West Ham. Actually, next week, we're going to have a Premier League update again from Chef Nicky Brown. The guy's absolutely electric. You could put his Premier League knowledge against like somebody's NFL knowledge as a smart NFL person. The guy just rips it up. He's a chef. He does everything. I don't know how he's time for it, but I'll say this, Jack, and I know you're not a Premier League guy, but for those that are at home that are, you can watch every game in like a 10 to 15 minute highlight. Really well organized on Peacock. And it's awesome. I mean, on Sunday morning, I was just craving for more. I love coffee and breakfast and watching that. Something about the British accents and the kind of fact that I don't really know what's going on. It makes it entertaining to me. So yeah, I digress. Jack, did what'd you get into this weekend? I had a little XFL, a little Premier League. What did I tweet? Premier League, XFL, and what else is getting me through it, Jack? College baseball.
Daytona 500.
You watched the 500?
I did not. That's just the other thing I knew that was on this. But no, go to soccer. I don't know how you feel about this one. I am thoroughly more interested. I mean, I don't really pay attention to either, but if I had to choose, I'd be thoroughly more interested in Premier League soccer than the MLB.
Yes.
I I mean, well,
Yes.
it goes back to middle school. So, like, the big thing when I was in middle school, kids played was like FIFA Ultimate Team, which I don't even know if you were around. It's just like you would build, like, get cards and you would build
Oh yeah. I
teams.
mean, FIFA was huge in college when I was in college. So it was right about in your area. High school, college was FIFA was everything.
Yeah. So I began, I started to learn like 2014. Like, I probably knew more soccer. The only league I knew more players in was the NFL. Like, I could rattle off a bunch of like random soccer. They were popular. Like, it wouldn't be like Brazilian league or anything, but like 2015, but it just fell off after a few years. But I mean, career mode, like, I loved playing those. And like, I could get into like a championship league or like a World Cup match. Like, now, like, I could sit down, like, I watched the World Cup, but like,
Once you learn how to watch soccer, someone asked me today on Twitter when I was going back and forth with them, "Oh, I don't know how you can watch soccer. The product's horrible." And I get it, folks. I'm the football guy, and I'm the hockey, ice hockey. Like, I'm pissed there's not as many fights in hockey anymore, and checking's out of the game. Like, I'm that guy. But once you learn how to watch soccer and understand when those guys are rolling on the ground, it's to slow the clock down, run the clock off a little bit more, to get maybe a yellow card or a red card and get one of the best players off the pitch. It's to, give everybody a breather because everybody's exhausted running around. Like, there's tactical approach to it. Am I agreeing with it? The rolling around thing? No. But it's a part of the sportsmanship of the game. There's players in football that go down when they get hurt that maybe are not or are hurt. Who knows? But it happens in every sport, and it's a unique perspective to it. People just zoom in on the person rolling around on the ground and say, be tougher. Well, listen, it's like that in a lot of different sports too. That's my argument with the NBA. I struggle with. I think it's diluted the product because they lack of physicality. But my point is the Premier League's unreal. If you get into it, I said it last week on the show, pick a team like because of the colors, because of a player, where they're from, because of you like the head coach, because of whatever, you like the stadium, you like the fans, you like whatever it is, their jerseys. Do the same thing with the XFL and you'll have a hell of a spring. Dial in on it. If you can legally gamble, my buddies throw 10, 15, $20 on the Premier League game. And that's how they got into it too. I cannot gamble, so I do not gamble on the games, but people do. And it leaves, $5, $10 on whomever, you'll have a good time watching the game and you'll get into it and you'll be cheering for the team because you want to make $5, $10 back. So I digress. XFL is getting me through it. Awesome product. What they have going on. I absolutely love my time in the XFL with The Rock and Garcia and their team there. They're going to do an unbelievable job. The hub is all there in Texas, and all the teams are going to fly to different locations and bus to different locations and play there. The teams aren't going to be living in Washington and Seattle and San Antonio. They're all going to be in a hub in Fort Worth, and they're going to be traveling around, which I think is a really cool idea. I'm sure there's a business advantage to doing that. They have one big hub, so that's going to be really unique. Bunch of great games. Did you catch any of the games this week, Jack?
I saw a little bit of the one, I think it was Arlington. The one that was like a wild, it was like a last minute 30. It was like an 18-3 swing to like the other team winning.
It's
But
great.
I mean, I will say this, my favorite part, you'll mock me, that ties into our introductory conversation. The XFL, this rendition of the XFL has, I don't know if it's just because it's Under Armour, but they have by far the best uniform set of any of these different football leagues besides the NFL.
I
mean,
agree.
it is incredible.
I'm not going to mock you for it. I completely agree. I think they are. I like the way they lean into different things that make the city special or whatever. I thought the AAF did an awesome job with that. We were the Birmingham Iron, and there's a whole iron industry in Birmingham. And the teams is a lot. There's a lot of Apollos, because of, Apollo 13 and all the different things they have going on there with NASA and Orlando area, and the team out San Diego had their own situation. Like, I just like, okay, Seattle Dragons, like I get it, but like it should be like the Seattle Kraken or something to do with like Seahawk, like something to do with water and all. That's what I believe in. Like, lean into the local community with the logo and the name. I think that's always a safe bet. I digress, Jack. Everything we're doing here at Not For Long Media is brought to you by our friends over at the Original Fudge Kitchen, shipping fudge and sweet treats across the country. If you screwed up on Valentine's Day and you didn't send something to your significant other, we don't have to. We just do cards, whatever. Send them a box of fudge. Why not? FudgeKitchens.com. Go on there. It's super smooth. I did it the other day. Wish wrap sent to somebody. Awesome little snuggie they have there too. Saltwater taffy sent to somebody. Fudge sent to somebody. Can't beat it. Can't beat it. Great stuff from the Original Fudge Kitchen, shipping fudge and sweet treats across the country. Yeah, Jack. I mean, I think there's enough to buy the time here between football. There's just plenty. It just gets better too. Golf starting to pick up a little bit. Great nap time on a Sunday vibe there too. So, Jack, it's time to drum up our conversation. You before we do that, though, we got to talk about our friends over at Shots and Giggles, our newest sponsor here at Not For Long Media. We're doing a Key West. You know what? Before we do any of this, Jack, I'm going to touch on a few things. One, we're doing a Key West episode for the Sam Boner Show. So if you're a Key West fan, or you have friends going to Key West, or you have someone going there, whatever, we're doing a full Key West episode on the Sam Boner Shows. We're going to do an Annapolis episode. We're going to do a Sea Isle City episode. We're doing a Cape May episode. We're doing a Clearwater episode. So if you're traveling to those towns and you want a somewhat local's perspective of where to go and how to go about business, where to eat, where to drink, where to travel, fun things to do, instead of like going to Yelp and be like, okay, here we go. Check out the Sam Boner Show. They have everything, but particularly we're doing a show for Key West this week. Back to Key West, Shots and Giggles, the neighborhood pub of Key West, right on Ann Street, right behind Sloppy Joe's. Can't wait to be back there this weekend, hanging out there right on the porch. People watching, having a good time. Hope you're free. It's going to be nice on here Thursday, Jack, so I don't want to hear you complain. Shots and Giggles, the local bar Key West. We're there for the Super Bowl. I did the cheesesteak review outside. They have food. They have drinks. A great time. They don't sell food, but they give food away on Football Sunday. If you buy 2 drinks there, you can eat it up, having a great time. So Shots and Giggles, the local bar of Key West, Florida. So we have the Key West show coming out on Sam Boners. B, Breaking Bats, our baseball show, is going to transition to some college baseball. I am going to be the correspondent, Jackie boy. So I'm lucky enough to have some friends that play in college baseball, coach in college baseball, scout college baseball, family members that are diehard college baseball fans, and I am a college baseball fan as well. LSU, Florida in particular. So I'll be following those teams. I'm going to be giving a weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever that maybe we come up with, probably bi-weekly update on college baseball on the Breaking Bat show for us here at Not For Long Media. So I'm nervous for our big episode tonight, Jack. It's a lot of teams, a lot of overview, a lot of really good players. It's unique too with college baseball. Like the product's better because all those guys got another year of college because of COVID. So unique stuff, Jack. Groundbreaking. All right, now, Jack Connell, over to you.
Yeah. So we come to our big debate from the other day that you told me. It was this conversation also about like 5 days ago at this point. You told me to quote zip it and save it for next week's episode.
I didn't say zip it. You make people. It makes me sound like I'm an ass. I said hold the phone.
Hold the phone. Sorry, that's so very different vernacular. But so the big topic amongst the NFL Rules Committee this week in the NFL, besides the free agency and draft talk, is the possibility of them removing the push, however you want to call it, the 2-man behind quarterback sneak move made popular by the Philadelphia Eagles this year, where it was just Jalen Hurts automatic first down conversion on any 4th and short yard situation, 4th and 2 and below. I said I'm for banning it. It's controversial. Colin is very much for keeping the push, and I'll let him state his case first before I respond.
The push is extremely important for the safety of players in the NFL. Period. For those that say you can't stop it, yes, you can, but your defense will be weak in other parts of the defense. So, for example, you can load up the box. We call it an inches front. There's someone in both A gaps. There's someone in both B gaps, C gaps, etc. But you're susceptible to jet sweeps. So you'll line up on the line of scrimmage in college and the NFL, and the quarterback will see if there's open A gaps. He may slap the center's ass and say, hey, listen, right, this is where we're going. We're going to just go sneak. So it's going to be QB sneak, kill, jet sweep. So if they load up in the inches front, gaps, 6'2 gaps, every gap's filled, the QB is going to say kill, check, can, whatever it may be for their team. And they're going to send the guy in motion and hand the ball off on jet sweep because they're going to be successful on the outside for jet sweep. If you do not allow teams to push the quarterback, it's going to backfire. When a player runs through and knocks the quarterback back and he's going to land on the top of his head on a QB sneak, which is a simple play in football, which most quarterbacks do, a QB sneak, and don't even need a push. Tom Brady, Jalen Hurts, Sam Darnold, guys I played with over the years. That's why I say Sam, PJ. They just hit the gap and they dive for it and get it. The Eagles don't care what front you're in. A, because they have a really good offensive line. B, because they have a really good quarterback who's physical and strong and athletic and dynamic and smart. So he just burrows down there, gets super low. They just dig the guys right out of there. And whoop, there you go, first down. If you're going to ban that, then you got to ban the fact that when the running back breaks free and the offensive linemen pile around him and push him, then you have to ban that too, because it's the same thing, just given to a running back in space or given to a wide out in space. Because if not, the defensive pile is going to push it back and that person is going to get hurt. So the reason why the offensive linemen are always up and around a running back, tight ends, trying to help any of a ball carry not fall backwards is because that player, if that whole defensive pile falls on you, you're going, something's going to happen. Something's going to happen to you. You can't brace your fall. Your arms are in bad situations. Your head's in a bad situation. So I think for the safety of the league, the push should stay in. Defenses should adapt to it. I'm sorry, defenses. I know it's an offensive league, and I really hate that for you. I do. Like, genuinely, I'm speaking because it's PI, holding, hands to the face, those egregious ones, hit to the knees. They're all fines for defensive players, folks. Like, it's tough to play defense in the NFL. Very tough. Hands around the neck, all that stuff. I mean, you're just looking for defensive calls. So to me, keep it in for the safety of the players. 1, 2, stop it if it's that good. And then 3, I think it's a part of the game. Pushing piles. I teach kids that in youth football not because of, sure, you want the extra yards. Yes, but it's the safety of the ball carrier. So that's the reasons why I think it should stay in the league.
Interesting. I mean, like I said, it's just my thing. Like I told you before, it's just unstoppable. I guess what you mean from a player safety perspective, I just could see some very vivid, I don't know how, basically a descriptive rule where it's only banned in those short yardage rugby scrum situations while keeping the running back pushes and like all those ones that are whatever that is. Like, I think there could be a specific vernacular to where that specific situation is banned. Like, you can't have 2 running backs behind you, put 2 skill players behind you pushing it, or whatever you need to phrase it as, to where that specific situation is banned, but everything else you mentioned is still there. Because I mean, listen, it was you have to think it was banned for how many years before this? Like before 2008, like it was banned in NFL. College football banned it after that whole USC, the legit, why it's called the Bush Push, whatever game that was. I forget exactly what game it was for USC, but I mean, we've been with this rule before. So that's why I think player safety, there's a way they can phrase it to the point where it's just this specific situation and they can maintain player safety.
All good points. All good points. I hear you. I think you can argue both ways. It's pretty fair. I just think it's a part of the game, pushing piles. I think it should go back to college. I think it should be back in youth. It should be encouraged because it's more rugby that way, which is a safer version of football. Keeps players up off the ground. It keeps players healthy and helps you have more success. Defensively, figure out how to stop it. Offensively, figure out how to make it work because Eagles are the best at it, right? That's not even like a QB sneak. That's a whole nother play, which I get. Jackie's got to leave in a bit. And Jack, feel free to leave when you want here. I know you got a meeting coming up. I'm going to do the bar of the week, brother. And I am going to do our sponsors and kick it over to Jordan Schultz. Jordan Schultz, Jack, can you explain Jordan Schultz to our listeners? We buried the lead per usual. Jordan Schultz is a fantastic media journalist, football personality, really played basketball in college. He can do it all, but he's really pivoted to football during our conversation. It was great. It was loose. It was fun. The dog was running around. Whoever came in to interrupt, but it was great. We keep it loose. We keep it light. I don't like editing that stuff out. I think it's all part of the interview. What do you say, Jack? What say you, Jackie boy?
I thought Jordan was a great interview. Like you mentioned, he is a very big TikTok, Instagram, just an all-around great reporter, like we've mentioned before. I mean, I'm shocked if you haven't heard of him. He gave some great stories. He is the NFL Insider official. His official title is the NFL Insider for The Score, amongst his many other things. Been on Pat McAfee, several other shows.
Coward.
Really smart guy. Yeah, Colin Coward, but
NFL Network.
But really great stories. Bunch of great stuff about him. Interesting background. He gave some great stories as to how he got exactly where he is and his specific path and journey and all that stuff. And
it's a great story too. Like I'm extremely supportive of what he's got going on. And he seems like a great guy, and it was generous enough to give us his time. I mean, what a great story about trying to make it and doing different things and traveling all over the country and just committing to things. You guys will hear it all in a little bit. I don't want to spoil it. So Jackie's got to dip out for a meeting. I'm going to continue on here with our sponsors. Guys, Actions Over Words Apparel. Check them out. Awesome. Donating stuff back to the charity of their choice every year. Support them. actionsoverwordsapparel.com. SeatGeek. Going to a game. Promo code Colin, Thompson, COLINTHOMPSON. Hopefully I spell that right. SeatGeek. Check them out. $20 off your tickets over $50 or more. Shout out to our friend Som Sleep. our buddy Paul, Wealth Advisory Services, great sponsor and support of us here at Not For Long Media. Hit me up there today. Hey man, what's your promo code? I want to get involved in that company. Not sleeping great right now. Boom, checking them out. He texted me, loving the product. Awesome product. Som Sleep. I love the sugar free. I love them both, but I'm a sugar free fan. Absolutely love what Som Sleep is doing. Guys, shout out to our friends over the Original Fudge Kitchen at shotsandgiggles.com. Two awesome brands we're lucky to have in our corner here. And then the bar of the week this week. Everybody has been giving me smack. Key West, Key West, Key West. Listen, that's my vacation spot every year. We spend 2 weeks, month, whatever that is down there. So we hit these great bars. I think it's 300 something bars in a 2 mile by 4 mile island. So there's lots to do when it keeps it moving and grooving, shaking and baking and having fun at bars and restaurants down there. It's a great time. Hence why I work out every day down there. Hence why we are always on the move down there. And I had to leave for a week to train and get back into it. But it'd be great to get back down there this weekend and see everybody. And I'm excited for the Sam Boner show this week. A real good breakdown of the town, things to do, places to see, bartenders at different places. It's going to be fun. The bar of the week this week, brought to you by our friends over at the Original Fudge Kitchen, shipping fudge and sweet treats across the country, is the Green Parrot in Key West, Florida. Listen, folks, this place gets voted top 10 dive bar in the world. It's technically not a dive bar. It's a cleaned up version of a dive bar. No food, just booze, live music, talent from across the world flown in to play sound check at 5 and usually a show at 7 or 9 o'clock at night. 5, 6, 7 days a week, depending on what's going on. It's incredible. It's an establishment. It's been there forever. And it is such a cool, fun, funky, jazzy, rock, reggae, you name it. Awesome bartenders. Shout out to Val. Shout out to Jody. The back bar there is really cool. It's really a side bar. They call it the back bar. That's really cool. It's just something unique. You have to see it when you're in Key West. It's a right off the Wall Street by a block, but it seems off the beaten trail almost. It's great. It's got the little deli across the street from it. The roosters are running in and out of the restaurant. They have popcorn there. That's the food they sell. Free popcorn for everybody. It's not even for sale. It's free popcorn. The place is freaking killer. So the beer's a 4 out of 5. The service is a 5 out of 5. Food and ambiance, you can't beat it. It's a 5 out of 5. And then no TV. So I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. So 18 out of 20, excuse me, for the bar of the week this week. The Green Parrot in Key West, Florida. Brought to you by the Original Fudge Kitchen, shipping fudge and sweet treats across the country. Can't wait to be there this weekend and see all the awesome bartenders and just great people down there at the Green Parrot. What a great, cool, funky spot. I love hanging out there. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed the Jordan Schultz interview. Again, thank you to all our sponsors, everyone who supports this podcast. Check out all our shows. Baseball podcast, Two Girls, One League, still kicking. Geez, fantastic. All the stuff we got going on with the Sam Boner stuff. Hopefully you're not sick of me eating cheesesteaks yet. I love it. That's why I got to work out every day like a nut. Yeah, really fun stuff. So again, thank you guys for all your support, and I hope you guys enjoy the Jordan Schultz interview. All right, awesome. Jordan Schultz is joining us today. How you doing, man?
Guys, doing great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on, man. You've done a lot of different things. More importantly, you pulled down the Seattle Seahawk helmet. Is it signed by Russ? What do you got there?
I got Russ signed. I don't think you can see the football, but I got some Richard Sherman, little Kobe, little Ichiro. I'm from Seattle, 206. I grew up a huge Seahawks fan. Met my wife at a Seahawks game. So that was always my team growing up. However, they didn't get good until basically like my freshman year of college. So we had some lean years there with the Kingdom. You know, it was like we had who was the quarterback? We had Rick Meyer, not great. Dan McGuire, not great. Jeff George. I mean, it was rough. So the Seahawks got really good. Hasselbeck helped turn it. That's when they went to the Super Bowl in 2005. They had Dilfer, but it was just like a lot of bad years, man. They were always 5, 6, 7 win teams.
Well, that's fun when you're in college, though, because there's nothing better than, where'd you go to school?
Well, so my first 2 years I was at Seattle U playing basketball, and then I transferred to Occidental College, which was a small liberal arts, like totally different experience in Southern California, right outside of LA.
Yeah, there you go. So I knew you played college basketball, and I was going to ask you about it. But before we get into all that, that's great in college though when your team's doing good, especially when they're turning things around. You're just kind of figuring it out. You're free. You're a college athlete. You're having fun.
Yeah.
Plus, you're in Seattle too.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, they had that Super Bowl against the Steelers, and that's when Hasselbeck was the quarterback. Sean Alexander had 27 touchdowns that year, and that was a really fun year. And then I was met my wife that season as well. So it was, that was I didn't realize it at the time, but my life changed a lot that year.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I went to University of Florida from Philly and got medically disqualified after 2 seasons there. They relieved me of my scholarship and met my wife down there too. And now we're Gator family. And I went on the Temple and bounced around the NFL. But yeah, it's been quite the journey. So we played in Seattle this year. It was awesome. It was one of our biggest wins of the year. We were trending in the right direction.
That was a hell of a game. Yeah,
that was a great game. And we just were like running the ball, and defense was awesome. But it was really cool. Before the game, we came in on the bus, and I was had some injuries and on the track squad this year, so I didn't play in the game. But we came in on the bus, and I looked to my right in the Mariners baseball stadium. There was like a party going on in there before the game, and they had all the other games on the big screen in there.
Yeah.
Before our game, I'm like, that is, and we do the bar of the week on the show, and that week it was the bar of the week. So unbelievable.
It's so funny you said
great fan base.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's funny you said that because Seattle always had great fans, but it's hard when you don't have a great stadium and when you have a bad team. So they had a bad team, they had the Kingdome. And then they got into, it was Quest Field, now it's Lumen Field, it was CenturyLink, it was the Clink, it's changed a couple times. But once they got in that stadium and then they started winning games, it really changed the philosophy of the city, because it's always been a great football city, but it was Washington. It was the Huskies. And they won a national title in 91, Rose Bowls, they were terrific. That was actually the team I really loved. And then once the Seahawks started winning games, they got the new stadium. It created so much juice. And the Mariners, it's all right there. You got all the bars, Pioneer Square, you got T-Mobile Stadium, and they've really synced up and connected. And for the first time, it was the longest playoff drought in North American sports. The Mariners hadn't been since 2001. And now you have both Seattle Mariners and the Seattle Seahawks rolling, which is like awesome. It's been unprecedented.
Yeah, it's a cool city. I went out and had dinner and got a couple drinks. I wasn't playing in the game. I knew I wasn't playing. So I stopped, had a beverage or two and just enjoyed the city a little bit while we were out there. And I was really impressed. Like it gets a bad rap, and for whatever reason.
Rains.
What?
It rains.
It rains. But I'll tell you what, there's some good people out there, and it was a good time. So
it's gloomy, it rains, but nothing better in the summer. Beautiful on the water, the mountains, great food. I miss it dearly. I'm 3,000 miles away here in the West Village of New York City, trying to, and I'm really only here because of media. I mean, I always thought I'd be back in Seattle early, but it hasn't happened. But I do miss it. I'm glad you had a good experience.
Yeah, Tats Deli too. Shout out! I did a cheesesteak review right
good
there.
For you. You did it right.
Yeah, so it was really good. Okay, so you mentioned the media stuff. You're in New York City. Everybody's migrating to LA, right? That seems like this huge migration. I mean, it's always been New York, LA, but why New York?
When I graduated college, sorry.
It's fine. They're still good. They're doing great.
You guys, do you mind closing the door? Bree? We have 4 animals. It's nuts.
In New York City, it's tremendous idea. You're good.
Okay. Okay. So when I graduated college, my girlfriend who ended up marrying was like, we got to go to New York City. It'll be great. Sports media. This is what you want to do. She was in marketing. And I thought we'd be here for honestly, a year and a half, 2 years. And I graduated college in 2009. I just turned 37. We've been here for 14 years. It's shocking. So I don't know anything better or anything else, I should say. I don't know anything else. I mean, LA, I went to school there. It's a good media scene, but I don't think anything quite compares to New York City.
No, it definitely does not, especially with the food, the culture, the Northeast, all the pro sports teams are right there. Good for work, good for business, good for fun play. I'm not far from there in Philly and the Jersey Shore and all that. So, but my next question for you is, how does it make it easier on your job? Like, I've seen you're on Coward Show, you're always different places. Like,
Yeah.
are you traveling a lot, or you find there's a lot of work to be done in New York?
No, I'm not. So I'm not traveling a lot, to be honest. Like, when I do Coward, I did in studio. I think that was last time I was in LA for free agency. I was breaking some, obviously anytime you break stories, you're going to have opportunities. And that was not what I set out to do. But I think over the last free agency cycle, I really decided I'm going to go all in on the NFL, and I'm going to become a legitimate NFL insider. Sorry to basketball, sorry to tennis, anything else I was messing around with. Respectfully to those sports, it was holding me back. I was doing too many things at once. As my parents always told me, you can't dance at everyone's wedding. And I was trying to find a way to navigate all these different things in context. It was impossible, to be honest, Colin.
It's a lot, man.
Now when I do the shows, McAfee, I've done First Take, or this just in with Max Kellerman, who's been a great friend. When I've done these shows, it's actually been almost all on camera in terms of like this Zoom. ESPN has a South Seaport station, which is like 12 minutes from me. So when I've done ESPN, I've actually gone in studio, which is obviously ideal. That's always best. But other than that, like, I'm on Zoom. I mean, I think at the combine, I'll go on McAfee because he's there in Indianapolis. But for the 95% of it, or 98% of it even, it's on Zoom. And it's not the best, but it certainly is feasible and it works.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's allowed us to have a media company from people ranging across the country, and we're never together. I mean, there's people that are part of our media team here that I've never met in person, and we have 15 employees.
That's crazy. You're talking to them more than you're talking to your family sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, we talk all the time. I mean, I've met Jack a few times, but I've seen Jack one time in the last probably 10 years in person or whatever it's been.
Wow.
Just because, yeah, I mean, that's just but that's the beauty of this business, how I'm able to do it and play and, create contact, have people like yourself on. It's been really fun. So, but you said you didn't set out to do this. You didn't set out to be, surpass.
I don't even know what I just wanted to be in media.
Were you just chugging along and it just showed up? You're like, or I'm like, hey, I'm going to be better than Rappaport and Schefter. Like, how did that happen?
I was always I always wanted to be in sports. That was always my goal. And it was like an obsession, like anything else. It was like, that's the only thing I ever wanted to do. But when I couldn't get a job, and it was really tough the first few years I was almost rudderless, because I was writing stories, and I was at the Huffington Post and then Yahoo, and then I was at ESPN for, I guess, like 3 years, but I never really felt like I had an identity, and I would hear executives tell me you're kind of a utility player, or a jack of all trades. And I didn't know if that was good or bad, but that's all I knew. And so what happened was, I was talking to, going into last NFL free agency. So let's say like about this time last year, so about a year ago, I told my wife and my agent, I said, I need to do one thing. And if it fails, at least I'll know that I gave that my best shot, as opposed to trying to just do everything relatively well. So I basically said bye to everything else and said the NFL is the only true 365 sport. And I'm a basketball nut, but the NFL is king, as you know, Colin. And it's not even really that close from a ratings perspective. So I wanted so badly to break in, but I felt like there wasn't necessarily a whole lot of space in the traditional sense. And what I mean by that is I felt like the only way to really break in and become an insider was to do it through the lens of the player, to try to empower players. Because in football, as you know, unless you're a quarterback, it's so hard to get that recognition. That helmet is like a fourth wall. It's impossible almost. I mean, I was just in the Super Bowl in Phoenix, and I'm not going to lie to you. There were a couple like pretty significant NFL stars that it took me a minute. And in one case, I couldn't put my finger on who it was. And I felt it was like embarrassing a little bit, because I should know, but it took me usually a couple minutes sometimes. And so I felt like, okay, with that in mind, this is a year ago, let me try to do it a little bit differently and break stories through that lens. And so I wanted it to be more than a tweet. I wanted to provide more depth. And I was able to get I would say a significant amount of stories with that in mind. Every story is not going to be like that, and it's not a perfect straight line. It's not linear, but for the most part, that's how I approached it. And I think that's probably how I broke through the way I did. And I would point to the Rob Gronkowski retirement as probably the best example of that, Colin. So I don't know how much you know about it, but I was fortunate enough to break Rob Gronkowski retiring. And that process played out over like a year and a half, maybe 2 years. It was a long time of not talking about anything about football. Just friendship. And we got introduced through mutual friends, and I had him on my show once, but for the most part, we just, like, he was in New York. We'd spent some time together, but we weren't talking about like Tom Brady or the Bucks. It was just like everything else. And I felt like that was the big difference for me. You can come in. Sorry.
No, that's great. No, you're fine. That's great. I mean, there's so much to unpack there. I'll say this.
Yeah.
There's nothing better than good relationships, right? And that's the key. Like for Gronk calling you, is like, this is my friend. Like, great. Here, I'm gonna have you break it, right? Like and that's kind of the world I'm in here as a football media guy. And sometimes I get made fun of for it from my guys, like, or coach will say, don't say it too loud, Colin's around here. I'm like, first off, I would never do anything. I don't really talk about it. I would never. And it's so funny because there's so much that I know and so much that you know too that you can't put out there.
Can't say. That's brutal.
You're like, oh man, this is brutal. But I think this, and we'll talk about this, kind of the new media thing, and like JJ Redick brought it up, like how good it is for sports now that these players have these platforms and their friends, when they're media guys or players, are joining them along the way. I think that's huge. Can you talk about like player empowerment and how it's like, I think, made your job a little bit easier?
Absolutely. And I'm thrilled that it has not only made my job easier, but I'm thrilled that players have a voice. Let me just wrap on Gronk, and then I'll get to that. And because I think it ties in. I think he called me and said, all right, I'm going to retire. And it was kind of out of left field, I knew that it was possible, but the timing was, I had no idea when. And I hung up and I was like, shit, he asked me to wait 15 or 20 minutes. This is probably going to get leaked. And now I'm like, if I lose this story, I'm going to be devastated because of the significance of it. And because he trusted me, of all people, to deliver the news on a national platform. And I really need to do it right. And so I think I called him back like a minute or two later, texted him, and whatever it was. And I just said, I'd be remiss if I didn't say, this is probably going to get out in the next 15 or 20 minutes, because he was giving me a window before he was going to announce it, that I could announce it and I could say, Gronk told me. And so at first he was like, I'll never forget this. He was like, man, I think I got to wait. I was like, okay, no problem. And then he either texted or called or whatever it was. He was like, fuck it. You could just go. You go ahead. And then he retweeted it. And that like put a stamp on it. And I can't tell you how many players reached out to me after saying, wow, like Gronk, really? Like you had it like that with Gronk? And I was like, honestly, I didn't even know he was going to give it to me. We had talked about it. But that was really special. And it was really selfless of him. And I'll never forget it. I ran into him at the Super Bowl and we were talking. Every time I see him, I'm just like, you're the best.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. And then in terms of what you're saying, player empowerment, about 4 years ago, I got hired to do the pull-up pod with CJ McCollum. And CJ and me were really, really close. And so it was a natural fit. But it's still like his podcast. And I didn't want to just be like a second wheel and be a cast-off, but I also knew that people didn't really need to hear from me. It was his pod, and I was going to facilitate it. And that really opened my eyes, because it was hard for me the first few months and several episodes to find that balance. And we did it for 2 years, got nominated for Best Sports Pod, and I think we found it, but it was tough. And I'll never forget him telling me, just be yourself because I trust you. And that's just that relationship of making sure that you do right by the player.
I'm a huge CJ McCollum. I wanted him back in Philly so bad.
I know. Lehigh. Great. Lehigh.
Dude, Lehigh, man. I grew up and he was like, they were like they were in March Madness.
They beat Duke. Yep. As a 15 seed.
Dude, people in Philly, there's no other city more. I'm going to ask you this too. As we wrap here in the next 4 or 5 minutes.
No, we're good.
But there's no other city that like wants their where they're from. Because Philly claims like Delaware, South Jersey.
Philly claims like a lot.
They do. From like Harrisburg to like Elizabeth, New Jersey, like all the way down to Delaware, northern parts of Maryland. So it's like, come back and play for us. Like the Mike Trout train's like crazy. Like
because
crazy
he's an Eagles fan, so everyone just. But he's not really from there, right? South Jersey.
Yeah, he's from South Jersey, right there. He's from
from
30 minutes from the city. Oh yeah, so. But best fan bases in your mind? I mean, there's Seattle's got to be up there, right?
For football, I would say.
Sure.
Well, Philadelphia, I mean, gruesome, but they're incredible fans. Seattle is amazing. I'm biased, but they're amazing. Kansas City's excellent. I was in Minnesota for the Giants-Vikings playoff game. Incredible. That's 4. I mean, Giants and Bears fans are pretty great. Packer fans, I mean, any of those tempo franchises, like Pittsburgh. Packers, you know, and when it's a one team or one, I should say, when it's a one team city, for example, Green Bay, one NFL team, no other professional sports, it only amplifies. I'm curious for you. I mean, Denver's really good too. That's another one.
We had it to me, and I'm from Philly, and I'm not biased. I just got to see it first and foremost. Everyone said, "You're not biased from Philly." Well, I wasn't raised an Eagles fan. I wasn't. My mom's best friend from high school was a defensive coordinator for the Giants, the Steelers. We were all over the NFL watching him, so it was very much different from my football. Other sports, sure, but like we went to Philly when Carolina. We were such a transit city when I was with the Panthers. So when teams would come through, we played Philly in 2021. And I'm on the field, and we have to go silent cadence because it was so loud in the fourth quarter. We're at home. Philly was on the road. And we've had a lot of teams come through. That was the real test for me of, wow. Like, Denver was loud. Pittsburgh was loud.
Seattle is crazy.
But Seattle is crazy loud and an amazing atmosphere. That's the toughest place I think New Orleans is the toughest place to play in the NFL.
Yeah, the dome is a natural advantage. But
you can't hear yourself think. Everybody says that. That is fact. You cannot think. You can't. Seattle's tough too. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, we just named like 10. I mean, Pittsburgh. Yeah, that's another one.
That's the beauty of the league, though, right?
Cincinnati. That's a good. The jungle.
Loyal.
I mean, those people. Those fans are not Buffalo.
Ravens. We didn't even name Buffalo. They should be the top of the list.
I mean, I haven't been to every stadium. Maybe a third of them. Baltimore, I liked a lot. I thought that was great. I tell you, the league is. I mean, I'm obviously I always want the NFL to do well because I'm covering it, and it's such a monster. But I can't think of a better time to be an NFL fan because of the talent and the Parrot. It's always parody, but now I'd be interested to see what happens next year with DirecTV, all those games being on YouTube. I wonder how that impacts it. Like what happens? Because every year it seems like DirecTV is like somebody's mad at them. But what happens when like your internet connect, your Wi-Fi is out, and you lose your fantasy game on a Sunday afternoon on YouTube? That's going to be bad.
You're right, and it's the best time to play in the league as a player. I think, in my opinion, you're being taken care of physically more now than ever. Obviously, you're getting paid more now than ever. You're playing an extra game. There's some things that younger players are like, screw it. I'm just taking these big paychecks and I'm having fun with. And by the time our old asses are out of the league.
How old are you now?
I'm 29.
That was my guess. Yeah, I figured. Okay.
Yeah, 29. So I got a couple years. Left in me.
But that's a long career, dude. I mean, your podcast, not for long.
Not for long, man. Not for long. I mean, XFL.
Also, no fun league.
Yeah, no fun league, but it's been fun. They're taking better care of the player, and that's been really good, in my opinion. Yeah. It's allowed me to play longer. I think it has.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was just talking. Yeah, being at Super Bowl last week, it was my first one really covering it, which is kind of what I was saying earlier about shifting to the NFL, and caught up with a lot of players and asked guys different questions. One of the things that came up a lot was turf, grass, but like the Giants, I know are now changing their turf, are going to a much better turf, and they've traditionally been one of the worst. I think that's like the next. The grass turf argument seems like the next big domino to fall across the league because there's still a lot of stadiums that are not prioritizing it.
We had the best grass in the world in Carolina, and they got rid of it. And oh my God, you could sleep on it. It was unbelievable, and you could run on it. But the thing, like, I don't blame like David Tepper for doing it because it's like okay, I'm gonna like the first weekend of 2021 when the season ended. When the college football season started, it was like 3 games in 3 days. Like what that did for the city of Charlotte is tremendous. Small businesses, Uber drivers,
Sure.
like that's a big deal. I love thinking about that stuff because that's real life. Bar owners, restaurant owners, like they're banking
Oh,
on that.
massive.
So
They
yeah,
make
MLS.
there in one day or one weekend that they would in a month or 6 weeks. Yeah, massive.
Yeah. So the MLS team's there now. We're there. I think it'd be great to have the grass. Trust me, but if you're an owner, I understand it. I get it. So, lastly, Super Bowl thoughts on the whole entire game. Obviously, there's a lot to tackle: the holding call, the grass, the elite coaching staffs, the elite rosters. Thoughts on the Chiefs, Eagles, Super Bowl, and those teams moving forward as we wrap.
Well, I mean, I would start with Philly. They're so well positioned. They have some big decisions to make this offseason, certainly. I think Hurts is going to command in the mid 40s. I think Burrow, by the way, is going to get 50. I mean, the Bengals traditionally don't pay, but Hurts is going to be in that category as well. But especially with the NFC, I mean, they are in a phenomenal position, and he is the best. I mean, he's one of the best young players in the league, period. So Philly's in a great spot. In terms of Kansas City, I can't remember who said this, but they didn't play their best game, at least the best first half. And for them to withstand a pretty big gut punch from Philly, they're down 10 at the break, and they still find a way with Mahomes hobbling. It's remarkable. When they traded Tyreek Hill, I remember thinking like, wow, like that, how is this going to impact this offense? And I mean, you tell me that guy changes the whole game, and they found a way to make it work and be better in some ways. And I was fortunate enough to break the Kadarius Toney trade. I remember thinking this is going to put them over the top. Now he was hurt, but he had an unbelievable, almost like Percy Harvin impact. Go back to Seattle Super Bowl against Denver, where he changed the game in 2 plays. I mean, the touchdown was beautifully schemed, but the punt return down to the 4-yard line, those are the kind of things that great teams have. They just have all those pieces. So I give so much credit to Brett Veach and the Chiefs because I would ask you, I mean, is there a scarier team moving forward considering the quarterback and where their roster is?
Yeah, I mean, you bring up some great points there. Shout out to Percy Harvin and Tony, 2 Gator boys. I mean,
yeah, I figured you like that.
Yeah. I mean, oh man, I think Philly's in the category. I think Kansas City, they're in the same. I think they're in the same upper echelon of the league. I think you can argue the entire AFC picture is. You could argue the Niners, like the playoff picture, right, in the AFC, and then I mean that Niners roster is insane, right? Like that's insanity. What they have on
yeah.
I mean,
they have some big decisions to make too. Philly and San Francisco, from a free agency standpoint, this is a big offseason. Both those teams are really fascinating.
Unbelievable GMs in both situations. Obviously, Kansas City as well, and it's credit. I mean, it's unbelievable what Kansas City's got built. And no, it's fun. The league's in a great place. It's great for you covering the league. It's great for me playing the league. I'm trying to do it as long as I can. I know you are too.
I just can't believe. I give you so much credit, man. You've been in the league, so you've had 7 years.
Dude, no, I haven't. I've only technically have 2 credited seasons because I've been on practice squads. I played the most in 2020 and 2022. I had a pretty legit impact with the Panthers. And then last year I had a couple injuries, so they practice squatted me. And then Giants, out of coming out, emergency appendectomy, got cut. I was with Ben McAdoo, played 5 preseason games in game 1, woke up the next day in New York City, spent time with friends and family, like keeled over because my appendix was going to burst. Get cut.
Oh my gosh.
Zach Miller blows his leg out.
I remember that. Yeah.
Saints for the Bears. I came in for the tight end workout to go to the practice squad because they elevated the practice squad to the active roster when Zach went down. So I was with the Bears for a year, John Fox, Matt Nagy. And the day they traded for Khalil Mack, I got cut with everybody else.
Gosh.
And then, so I was practice squad with John Fox. Matt Nagy got cut. And then I was out for a year, marketing media. I traveled and called games for 3 years with Temple football, all on the radio, traveled with the team. And I would do sideline reporting, color commentary. Yeah. And then I was in and out of the AAF and XFL for that process.
I knew that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Grinding through that. And then boom, had a good little XFL stint. My college coach became the Panthers head coach. And, I got my foot in the door and they had to yank me out of there for 3 years. So could be back. We'll see what happens.
Well, I appreciate
a great ride, man.
What you're doing. Yeah. It's very, very cool and continued success. And, you ever want to chop it up or I can do anything to help, I'm here.
I'm glad we were able to connect, man. I can't thank you enough for coming on. I think you're one of the best in the business, if not the best. It's been great following you, and looking forward to staying in touch.
You're too kind. Thank you, Colin. Make sure you get all my info too, okay?
I will. Be well,
All
my
right, buddy.
friend. Thanks.